तुम्हारे पेरेंट्स इतनी मेहनत करके यहाँ भेजते हैं, तुम तो लड़के हो, तुम तो पढ़ लो, लड़की का तो कुछ नहीं, तुम किस पे डिपेंड करोगे? Instinctively I was like, so what do you mean लड़की का कुछ नहीं, you know? You're told that your worth is going to be decided based on what rank you get, what college you get, job you get, and if you are not able to do XYZ, then you're worthless. That's a lot of pressure at the age of 17 or 18.
Past 2 years especially, these children do nothing. They eat, sleep, breathe exams. They don't even have the money to pay for the coaching classes, and they may sell whatever they have.
If I were to isolate that experience, it was one of the toughest things that I've ever done in my life. You need to kind of evolve now. Maybe a danda worked on our parents' generation, it won't work on us. Maybe we need to be guided with more kindness.
When does this stress become distress? When does it become depression? But sometimes when they are suffering silently, sleep, appetite, negative thinking, helplessness and worthlessness, I'm not worth anything, that creeps in. You know, we do not want suicides, we do not want children suffering, we do not want kids going into addiction.
And the whole idea behind what happened with NEET and for it to become one centralized exam was to bring fairness. So for a paper to get leaked, it's a disservice to the spirit behind the fact that you've centralized an exam. The world is not a fair place. There'll always be people who'll be more privileged than you and less privileged. But education becomes that equalizer. But in our country, for a majority of people, medicine is a platform out of poverty to better their lives. Those students don't have as much of a choice. That's where these systems such as NEET become so important.
One exam, 1 day, 3 hours, 720 marks, and an entire adolescence riding on it. This year, over 22 lakh students sat NEET. Now, MBBS seats in India are around 1,37,000, but only 63,300 of those are government seats, the ones that most students are vying for. And many of those are subject to state quotas and reservation policies. So I think we can agree that it is one of the most competitive exams in the world. And then the government scrapped the entire exam after investigators found a guess paper with over 400 questions circulating before the test. And more than 100 of those questions actually turned up in the real exam. There was a CBI probe, 13 arrests, a re-exam, and in the weeks after, something much, much bigger. There was student protests after student suicides, weeks of protests. Some of the students were barely out of school. They had been camped out in Delhi for over a month. One activist sat on a hunger strike for 26 days, and all of it circles back to the same question. If the exam itself can't be trusted, what exactly were the last 2 years of 6 a.m. to midnight preparations for? And in the middle of it all, our guest today said, I wrote this exam twice, in 2015, for the same reason, a leaked paper. And so can we assume that nothing has changed in the last 11 years? Hello and welcome to All About Her. Today isn't just about exams. We question actually whether a system built on one multiple choice question paper deserves the fate that an entire generation puts in it. Joining us today is an actor, an entrepreneur, and one of India's most celebrated global ambassadors. Before she represented India on the world stage and was crowned Miss World 2017, she was a medical aspirant who cleared one of the country's most competitive exams. Beyond her work as an actor, she has remained deeply committed to public health, championing women's health, preventative healthcare, and social impact through multiple initiatives. She's also experienced firsthand the uncertainty of the 2015 medical entrance paper leak, having to sit the exam twice, a perspective that makes today's conversation deeply, deeply personal. So please welcome Manushi Chhillar. Also joining us today is a psychiatrist and a psychotherapist who spent more than 3 decades helping children, adolescents, and families navigate some of the most challenging moments of their lives. From academic pressure and exam anxiety to burnout, depression, and emotional resilience, she's worked closely with students trying to find their footing in an increasingly competitive world. She's the founder of Mind Temple and the author of Death is Not the Answer. So please welcome Dr. Anjali Chhabaria. So thank you both for being here today. And my first question was to you, Manushi. You spent the last decade as an actor. And recently you spoke about what's happening with the NEET leak paper and the protests that are happening. So why is it that you chose to speak?
For someone who's actually lived that journey and was at the receiving end of something very similar to what students went through recently, it just felt like the right thing to do. And I remember when I gave my exam in 2015, and we had a similar set of events, and then 45 days later, we again had to give that exam. And I saw a lot of perspectives as to like, oh, but you got more time to prepare.
Yeah.
Or a lot of perspectives that it's just an exam, you can give it again. I felt that was a very insensitive approach. And hence I felt that apart from, of course, addressing the fact that, there has to be fairness and there has to be a more strict system and against, any such incident happening again. But what I realized was that it's also important to understand, and that's when I decided to take a certain stand and speak about my experience around it, because you have to understand what the student is going through at that point of time. You're through school, you're made to feel like everything, all these 12 years are going to culminate into something, and you're going to get into a professional college. And then that's going to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life. That's a lot of pressure at the age of 17 or 18.
Yeah.
And my mom still feels it, because she says that you had a better score in the first exam, but you had to give it again.
So the second time your score was reduced?
I still got a good rank and I got a good college. Yeah. So, I never complained. But it's 45 days of losing a certain time where, you kind of want to just unwind and you want to prepare for what's next.
Yeah.
MBBS itself is a very hectic curriculum. Yeah. It's not an easy course to do. Yeah. And you want to be prepared for that. You don't want to be exhausted by the time you reach college. Yeah. Which is what happened to a lot of us at that time. So for me, I felt I needed to speak up because it was important to just kind of listen to them and understand that maybe there is a gap in communication. Maybe the way things have been happening, there needs change. Yeah. And if the youth of the country is asking for that, then maybe we just need to support them, and we need for their voices to be heard.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people, before I come to you, Dr. Chhabaria, a lot of people who are not medical aspirants at all, medical students, still, because of the national attention this time, perhaps that kind of national attention didn't exist in 2015. Perhaps social media being as powerful as it is today wasn't there 11 years ago. This time, the national attention, and for people even sitting at home, there was a sense of shared anger, shared disbelief, shared feeling of this is unfair. So I'm saying even for someone who is untouched, perhaps, which is why I wanted to have this conversation today, as a parent also who has a child who is a student, a young student now, but who will also be sitting competitive exams. You feel a stake in the issue. I know a lot of people who are watching this might say, why Manushi? Someone who is now acting, who is a pageant winner, who has other things, perhaps started out a journey to become a doctor and now has pivoted in a different direction. So why do you feel that you want to have this conversation with her? And I thought, instead of my answering this, because I have answers, I thought I might let you answer it, just because it's a preemptive question.
Soha, like one thing that really changed my life when I traveled for that 1 year as Miss World is that sometimes a little bit of empathy is all that it takes. And I've gone through that journey. Yeah. And today I have a voice. And I have a larger number of people that will listen to me or that will take notice of what I have to say. I felt that was the right thing to do. Yeah. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation here. But interestingly, I have that question then. Why me? I think that's, when you were asking me that question, I was like, maybe that's an answer that you should give.
I have so many reasons. Firstly, because you do have a voice. There are people on this show who also say, why do you keep asking people who are popular to speak? And I have not only had people who are popular come on the show. I've had people who have had no experience with the outside world, who've lived these journeys. My answer to them is that a lot of people don't watch those particular podcasts. They want to see popular people. What I love is when I get someone who is popular, but also is authentic and is also actually somebody who's had a personal experience. For somebody who has been through a leaked exam that was cancelled. That has happened in 2015, where it was not called NEET, it was called
AIPMT that year,
but it was a very similar experience. And it was cancelled then in 2015. You resat it in 45 days. You have that experience, which very few people have. I also did reach out to a lot of students through Dr. Chhabaria and through other people to come on the show. There was some reluctance. I feel like people perhaps in 2026 who have sat the exam and have secured their positions may not want to have the conversation because they've secured their positions. Now they want to, either they're busy or perhaps they don't want to endanger what they have. And for various reasons, I think that I'm very excited to have this conversation with you.
I mean, Soha, like, I've not only gone through that journey, but I mean, I come from a family where I think everyone sat in some competitive exam, like whether it's three of my cousins are right now in med school. So they've given their NEET after I did. My sister gave her CLAT. And so I've grown up in that environment. And I think I completely understand what students go through at that point.
Another thing that I do want to say, and I hope that you will talk about as well, is that healthcare is a very important part of your life. And you're doing incredible work, especially the things that I've followed in terms of the menstrual hygiene campaign, in terms of a platform that also you're speaking about now, a clinic that you're involved in. So talk to me a little bit about how medicine is still a part of your life and all the wonderful healthcare initiatives you're doing, whether it comes to menstrual hygiene, whether it's the platform, the clinic that you're involved with, how medicine and healthcare is still such an important part of your life today.
I mean, that's what I've grown up with. I am the product of two doctors. And growing up, this was every dinner conversation. This was in everything we would find some form of healthcare involved. And that's the world that I know. And that's kind of helped me in life as well. Even as an actor, that's the approach I have towards life. And I can never let go of that because that's such a big part of my identity, whether it was with the menstrual hygiene campaign or moving on to AIDS awareness, or speaking about Hansen's disease, or everything that I've done, whether I did it as a student, as Miss India, Miss World, and after as an actor. I've always felt I've always felt like myself when it's about healthcare. Yeah. So while acting is a profession that I follow, healthcare adds more essence to my life. And those are the conversations that I have, and that's given me so much in life, that's taught me so much. Today, my dad and I, we've co-founded a clinic. Yeah. We have a longevity center together. And these are dreams that I had as a student, or when I traveled as Miss World. This is the exposure I got globally, which I wanted to bring to India. And if not as a doctor, I'm involved as an investor and as someone who is a decision maker at the clinic with the other doctors. But now I kind of want to launch a community because I've always very strongly felt about women and their health. And it's so important because a healthy woman means a healthy society. Yeah. And women by default become caregivers and forget to take care of themselves. And there's so much lesser conversation with respect to, and so much lesser information with respect to a female's health. And that's something which I now kind of want to go into, and that becomes a culmination of whatever I've done till now in that field. So Her Health Commons is a platform that I'll be launching.
This is exactly what we're trying to hear.
All about her,
Remember mental health.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I hope I want to speak more about it, but with time. I had the opportunity to pursue something which was beyond what I was born into. Yeah. And I think that's a great privilege to have, and I earned that. Yeah. When I talk to my parents, they always say that every generation has a different set of challenges and a different set of privilege. Yeah. My parents said that for us, it was very important. Like for my grandparents, it was about getting employed and having a job. Yeah. For my parents, it was, doing a good professional degree, and, the kind of job should be much better than what our parents did. And for us, it was to be able to pursue things that we enjoy doing. Yeah. So that has been changing through generations. And that's the difference you also see when we were students versus the students today. In 11 years, like I said, like we accepted and we were like, okay, fine, we'll give the exam again. We felt it was quite unfair and it was not a very great experience, but you kind of like just accept it and you move on. But the fact that the students today, like they spoke out, that's because their aspirations are far beyond that.
Yeah.
They're far beyond just being able to give an exam.
Yeah.
They're demanding a certain amount of fairness,
Absolutely.
which I think, I was quite inspired by.
Yeah, completely. Dr. Chhabria, you're a psychiatrist, and it was very important, I think, to understand, because I wanted this conversation to be about the human side of it. What is happening, what has happened in the country over the past month. At the heart of it, there's a lot of 17-year-old students and their mental well-being. And that is something that you've intrinsically given your life to. So it's very important for me to understand from you, firstly, the psychological impact of an exam. And we'll talk a little bit about the exam structure and the whole educational system a little bit later in the conversation. But the psychological impact of an exam being cancelled and for a student to feel that it was compromised, or their result was compromised not because of their own wrongdoing, the fact that, oh, maybe I didn't study enough, but because of an external stimulus. How does that impact someone?
So, what happens is, for these exams, people start working for it, not only 2 years in advance, but in sometimes 5 years in advance. So the parents or the child think that they want to go for an entrance exam. In our country, it's mainly the IIT and the NEET, where people start preparing years in advance. They go for their coaching classes, they come back, they probably have their lunch or dinner, and not only them, but in many cases, the parents are equally invested.
Yes.
In some cases, they don't even have the money to pay for the coaching classes, and they may sell whatever they have so that their child can go to that coaching class and get admission into a course which is extremely difficult to get. If you know the cutoff points, for these exams, it's like, lakhs of students will appear, but maybe a few thousands will get in.
Yes.
Okay. Now, even in these few thousands, a few hundreds will get into the government college, and then there are the private colleges.
Okay.
Okay. So imagine working yourself up with so much stress, with so much discipline, keeping everything else away. Your friends are having fun, they're celebrating parties. You will not go for any of those. When everybody else is playing Holi outside, you're sitting and studying inside, shutting all the windows because you don't want to get tempted. Okay. And when you go and give that exam or take that exam, and you feel a certain sense of relief. And then you feel, now I'm going to enjoy myself for the next 1 month, because after that, again, I'm going to get into the college or whatever. The day the exam got cancelled, I actually came to know about it from the parents, because there are parents who called me up and they said, oh my God, I've just come to know that this paper has been cancelled and I'm so scared I don't even want to break the news to my child. There was another parent who did not, because what had happened was children had planned parties, they had planned holidays,
Yes.
all that they had stopped themselves from doing.
Yes.
So it was as if it was a culmination, and today I'm going to relax and I'm then going to be relaxed.
Yes.
So, that stress, and then suddenly, then to be told that, sorry guys, we made a mistake, now you start studying again.
Yeah.
So there were children who called up because parents had their flight tickets booked or, their holidays booked. And they said, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Because the child said, I'm not coming. You guys go now. Obviously, they're not going to leave the child and go alone, right? So there was a lot of stress and handling those kids. I was talking to one of the coaching class yesterday. I was trying to get students from them. Yeah. So he said, my only job was to see that these children can appear for the re-exam.
Right.
And a lot of them did very well in the first exam. Then to do something again, it requires a lot of courage. It requires a lot of, and these kids have proved that, they are sincere, honest, hardworking kids.
Yes.
But for no one else's, it's not my fault that I have
Exactly.
to do this again.
Yeah.
And end of the day, they're 17 and a half.
Yes.
To expect that kind of maturity, so what? I'll do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
No, also, I mean, I'm sorry I'm
Yeah,
adding
yeah.
to that, but also at that age, you're made to believe that this is what life is about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's but natural. I think we've all
Yeah,
felt that
yeah,
at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to take you back actually to 2015, if I may. And if you could just tell us a little bit about what that kind of cost was for you. You said 45 days and you had a sense, I'm sure, that you'd done well. You'd secured a rank, you'd got good marks. What was it like for you to be told at that point that this exam is cancelled and you have to resit it?
There are two things here. There's one which is a personal experience, and there's another when you actually start preparing for something like this, you realize what the reality for most of the country is. Now, I had two parents who gave their entrance 30 years ago, and I had cousins who had kind of given the entrance as well. So somewhere I was mentally prepared that I know that this is what I have to go through.
Right.
But it's still not easy because you're sacrificing everything.
Yeah.
And I was always a child. I was a kuchipudi dancer. I had to let go of dance school. I had to stop painting, and I used to always do a lot of other things.
Yeah.
That's what gave me joy. And I told myself that I'll take 1 year and I'll completely focus on making sure that I clear my entrance exam. And while if I were to isolate that experience, it was one of the toughest things that I've ever done in my life. When I went to a coaching center, I realized that it's not the toughest thing that a person at that age has to do. Because you meet students, like ma'am said, that their parents have borrowed beyond their means to send their students to a coaching center. They come from multiple cities. They live in a PG where multiple students are sharing a room. Every day, their life is all about preparing for that one exam. Where I went to school, so I had a very clear goal, and I had parents who were involved, so we sat and we had a game plan.
Yeah.
Where we said finish your syllabus by August and then revise whatever you've studied till your 11th, and then we'll take a month's break so you can prepare for your boards, and then after your boards, we'll start revising and we'll start doing mock tests. So you have that game plan.
Yeah.
And then your your finish line is the day of the exam.
Yeah.
And then when you reach the finish line, you're told that, hey, you know what, 45 days more, and you're like, oh my God, I'm already exhausted.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah.
But the reality for me, even in that struggle that I felt, I still feel that I had a lot of privilege compared to a lot of other students that I knew.
And support.
Support.
Yeah.
I remember I used to go to a coaching center, which used to be thrice a week. So I used to come back home from school. I used to take the metro because I wanted to save those 15 minutes because I could come back, shower, get ready, have lunch and quickly run. We used to all go in a van. We used to go to like our coaching center, classrooms, lots of students crammed in a tiny space. We're studying zoology, botany, physics, chemistry. And and by the time it's like, I literally used to get home at 9 p.m. You're exhausted because you also have your school curriculum and you have the coaching center. And one good thing that my parents did, and they've had this rule that 1 hour of exercise is compulsory no matter what. So every day, either I would go to the gym to lift weights, or I would go to play basketball with the other kids in the campus. And that does a great thing because it not only created a social interaction with children who were not NEET aspirants, so I had access to the outside world.
Yeah.
But at the same time, of course, it's exercise, so happy hormones. You're playing a competitive sport with no consequences.
Right.
Which I guess is very important to learn at that age. And that rule really helped me keep my sanity. But the students I interacted with at the coaching center, my peers, a lot of them, probably their lease ended. They came to Delhi to give the exam, their lease ended, and now they've packed up and they've gone back to their hometown or villages. Now, they clearly came to Delhi because they didn't have an environment at home to study and prepare. Now you're saying you have 45 more days.
Right.
Which means now they have to come and figure it out all over again. Like 45 days is such a small period of time, and how do they get that environment back home?
They would not be able to resit the exam.
I mean, there's a financial stress.
Right.
There is a loss of time, and at that age, time is of essence because you're full of energy and you're just ready to take on the world. Waiting is something you can't tell a young person to do.
No.
And the biggest cost is psychological.
Yeah.
Because you've been told and you've been taught and you've been trained that if you work hard, you will get the fruit. And here it just feels like, you know, and I've always believed this, that the world is not a fair place. There'll always be people who'll be more privileged than you and less privileged. But education becomes that equalizer.
Yeah.
And that's the importance. And in our country especially, we've come we've come a long way since independence, and we still have a long way to go. But education stands for more than just learning. It symbolizes a platform that people can use to better their lives.
Yeah,
and that's what I learned when I went to the coaching center. So for me, while it was about clearing an exam and getting into a college of my choice, for a lot of students, it was not that. It represented a lot more.
Yeah.
So, you know, as an isolated experience, definitely, you know, you feel the loss of time. You see all your friends, they've moved on.
Yeah.
They've started to join their colleges. You know, you're alone. You're again preparing. But at the same time, you realize that if you look at the larger picture, people have a lot more to lose than you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why, I mean, I felt it was important to, you know, understand that why is it happening again? You know, now we need to move on from that. It's happened once, twice, and then you should make different mistakes later.
Right.
The same mistake shouldn't be made again.
Right. I think that's so right.
You know, even a lot of, like she said, that probably her parents said, no, exercise is important. A lot of kids stop exercising.
Yeah.
Okay, they put on 10 to 20 kilos in that time because all they are doing is, you know, and food is probably the only indulgence.
Right.
You know, so they have health issues, they have obesity issues.
Right. I was just thinking, I mean, even in prison, they give you 1 hour of exercise time. It must be a basic human right to get out of the sunlight.
And, you know, some of our coaches would say that, you know, they would give examples of, you know, children in Kota who, they would say that even in the canteen, they're sitting with books. But is that healthy?
Yeah.
You know, is that right? Is it okay to, you know, not go to school and not have that interaction and spend 24 hours just thinking about one thing?
Right. I mean, I feel like, and, you know, again, these are some of my later questions, the whole idea of one exam, 1 day, so much writing. Forget about the fact that then the exam is leaked and then you question the whole system. Your motivation takes a hit that some people cannot recover from even. I feel like just if we step back and look at that qualification system, I wanted to ask you, as somebody who is going through that, the emotional toll of that. You know, these are a lot of our competitive exams, whether it's UPSC, whether it's G, whether it's NEET. We have a lot of these exams in our country. So for somebody who's going through that process, what is that year like, that day like, and when do you see the pressure taking its toll? Because, and then I do also want to talk a little bit later about the various things. I don't think it's a healthy way to live life at all. The fact that you were dancing, the fact that you were going to college, interacting with your peers, that kind of balance, I think, is necessary, especially at the age of 17. But there are many educational systems, not just in India, that have that level of specialization and focus. And we'll talk about that. But firstly, the question was just about the emotional impact of a competitive exam like this.
So, of course, stress is normal. You also normalize stress because you know that 18 hours a day, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Okay. But at the same time, when does this stress become distress? When does it become depression? When does a child not even understand? You know, because in places like Kota or places where children are living all by themselves. And if they go for what happens is before this, the coaching centers have a lot of examinations. Now, if you don't do well, how does the teacher respond to that? The teacher's job is to correct you. But what if you're feeling ridiculed? What if you're already feeling that, oh my God, I have lost? You know, what if you've already moved on from the stress to distress, depression, anxiety has creeped in, and my mind has multiple thoughts thinking that I'm not going to be able to do it. I don't feel like studying. You know, and when that loss of interest comes up and the anxiety becomes deeper, you know, the mind is full of negative thoughts.
Right.
You know, and you're thinking that what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Have I lost the battle?
Right.
And the more of that that's happening, the more the anxiety that creeps in, the worse your results get.
Right.
And then you do not even have the courage, or you don't want to share with your parents because you know they are going through their own challenges. You know, and then you're coping with it alone because you're surrounded by other people who are actually your competitors.
Yeah.
So where does that go?
Right.
You know, so unless we have understanding teachers, unless we have counselors, you know, who understand that this child is getting stressed to such a limit that he or she is not able to sleep, they're either overeating or they're not eating at all. Okay, and they're constantly getting stressed and worried, and then resorting to, you know, negative coping mechanisms like maybe smoking, vaping, smoking up, you know, or indulging in, you're supposed to study, but all that you're doing is watching stuff besides studying.
Right.
You know, because your entertainment also comes from that gadget.
Right.
And sometimes we see children who've got into different addictions, whether it's video games, whether it's watching porn, you know, before they feel that they can't do it.
Right.
And they want to run away.
Yeah.
You know, where do they run? Where do they go?
Yeah.
So many of the times what happens is depression gets the better of them, anxiety gets the better of them, and they decide to take their own life. You know, instead of just sharing with someone that, listen, I'm getting really stressed and probably this is not something that I want to do or I can do.
Coming back to the competitive exam, the one day, for parents who have children who are sitting this exam, for example, it's easy for them, if they have a psychiatrist available now, so this is really addressing them right now, of things, and it could be helpful if you could say one thing that you should say and one thing that you should not say, because this is the way that the structure is now.
Yes.
A little later in the conversation, I'll come to how we would like it to be. But for a child who is sitting a competitive exam like NEET, for example, as a parent, what are things that you can say to them? And what is something you should never say?
So the first thing is, as I said, you know, do your best. Give it your best effort. Okay, the results can never be predicted. Okay, so go there, be calm, give it your best. Okay, if it works out, great. If it does not work out, we'll figure something out.
Yes.
Okay, and it's not what you say, but how you say that's important.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, because if you're panicking within yourself and thinking that no, but you must get into the best colleges of the country, and how can you not be at IIT? How can you not be in a government medical college? You know, if you're feeling that, your children are very smart. They will know it. Right? So it's very important, and to be with them through their success, through their failures. Okay, to just be around and allow them to express what they are feeling.
Yes.
You know, and to say, don't worry, this is not the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know, of course, also giving them inspiring stories from a very early age of people who wanted to do something but did something
like
else.
Manushi said, yes.
You know, that is something that stays with you.
Yeah.
You know, but if you make it, oh my God, this is the only way to go, you know, then your child starts panicking even before he or she has started their journey. So I think that is very important, to keep a calm atmosphere at home, to keep your regular, this is dinner time, everybody comes to the table and eats their dinner.
Yeah.
You know, to ensure that the child is sleeping properly.
Yeah.
Okay. And to be with them during important times. You know, and when you're with them and you watch what is happening.
Yeah.
You know, and even if one parent is anxious, it's okay. The other parent can take the role of being a calm parent and telling the child, whatever it is, I'm with you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll fight the world if it is required.
Yeah.
You know, this just reminds me of something that my younger brother, And he does Gen Z so much better than I do. He always tells me, he's like, Manushi, why do you think the harder way to do it is the right way to do it?
Right. Why does it have to be hard?
Yeah, why does it have to always be hard?
Yeah.
You don't always have to suffer.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's
suffering in our country has also been highlighted,
I think
underlined.
that has to change with now
And
with
I think
time.
it is, but I will come to that in a little bit. The fact that it is a competitive exam, and if there's some kind of major controversy that happens around a widely competitive exam like this, does it create broader distrust in the educational system more widely?
Of course. Of course.
I wanted to ask you again, Dr. Chhabaria, if there's a child that is experiencing stress, which is a normal part of sitting an exam like this, what can they do, especially if it's a child who may not feel as comfortable going up to their parents as Manushi did with her parents, to be able to have that conversation and say that even one day before an exam, I can't do this. And that is okay.
Right. So I think, a lot of kids go through stress and may not have the luxury of talking to their parents because they feel their parents are also stressed out. Okay. So I think it's very important to have at least 3 adults that you can talk to.
Yeah.
Okay. It could be your uncle, your aunt, a mama, chacha, bua, anybody, or maybe your family doctor that you can just go up, you can say, this is what I'm going through.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't know what to do. And from the government's point of view, I think we should have more helplines where children can just pick up the phone, talk to someone. Because, many a times when they talk, your stress levels come down and you may be able to find a solution. So helplines, for example, if we have government helplines, if we have more counselors in schools, and if counseling is normalized,
Yes.
the counselors coming to the classroom and discussing stress and talking to these children,
Yes.
then at least they'll know that this is what I'm going through.
Yes.
This is what I'm feeling, and there is a way out, and I'm not the only person suffering.
Yes.
Because when people go through stress, they think everybody else's life is so good, and I'm the only person who is suffering.
Right.
Right.
And when you create that community or you create a dialogue, then immediately you feel, like you said, a problem shared is also a problem halved.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
share. And it takes the stress off a little bit.
Right. And at the same time, maybe the counselor is someone who can even pick up the phone and talk to the parents, get them to sit together.
Yes.
And find common solutions.
Yes. And there are professionals
absolutely.
who know how to help
do
you
it.
in this
Yes.
situation.
Yes.
I think that it's incredibly distressing to talk about certain subjects, but I feel like it's important to also have those conversations instead of putting them under the carpet and pretending like it doesn't exist. When stress, as you've said in your book and in conversations, becomes distress, how, as a parent or as a responsible teacher in a coaching institute, if this child is preparing for an exam away from home, what are the signs to look out for to know that normal stress is now going out of hand?
So first of all, let me tell you what happens to somebody who is reaching that point. What happens in their mind? Okay, suddenly they're looking at life thinking that there's no hope left. Okay, so they feel absolutely hopeless. Then they also start thinking I'm worthless, because what is happening is I'm not able to study, I'm not able to concentrate, I'm not enjoying anything. I have a lot of negative thinking going on in my mind, and the messages that I'm getting from the entire all people around me is that you're not worth it.
Right.
Because maybe I'm looking at it that my friends are all doing whatever they need to do, and my life has come to a standstill. Okay. And along with that, I feel helpless. I do not know how to help myself. And when I feel this combination of hopelessness, worthlessness, and helplessness is something that people start thinking that maybe I need to get out of here. And I don't know where to go. I can't run away. I can't go anywhere. So probably the solution is that I should take my own life. Now, when this happens, of course, in an ideal world, these children should go out and talk to adults about it.
Right.
But they may not feel like doing it. And they may show other signs. So, of course, the first signs are when, you lose your sleep, you're not eating properly, absolutely, your grades start falling. Okay, you've been someone who's achieved so much that you've reached this place. but you're just not interested in your studies. And sometimes these kids may not even show any sign. Of course, ideally, mostly they show that they may come and talk to either any adult saying that, I don't feel like living any longer. I don't like this life. Maybe if life would be better if I'm not around.
Right.
Okay, so 7 out of 10 give these statements. Okay. And then there are those who just become disinterested in everything else and start living as if, as if their life is really relaxed.
Right.
Okay, so these are the people who may go around, either giving their things away or just saying bye to everybody. When they meet their friends, they may say, oh yeah, maybe next time I'm not going to be there.
Right.
But what happens is that people need to understand this. A lot of youngsters also indulge in a lot of substances, and they may try to harm themselves under the influence of substances because then they're more disinhibited.
Right.
So they feel that, this is something
Numbed.
that I can do. They try to numb themselves, numb their pain.
Yeah.
And sometimes in that state of disinhibition, they may end their life. Because of course, if somebody is crying and saying, I don't want to live, that's the time a parent will take their child to a mental health professional.
Right.
But sometimes when they are suffering silently, sleep, appetite, negative thinking, thoughts of hopelessness, helplessness and worthlessness, I'm not worth anything.
Right.
That creeps in.
I mean, these are incredibly distressing things to be talking about, and the only reason that we want to talk about them, I think, are because they should be spoken about because they're happening.
Yes.
A couple of things are, and I will talk also about, the existence of counseling and things. A lot of pressure comes, where does that come from? To want to sit these exams and to become a doctor, for example, in this country. I can understand somebody might want to become a doctor. You come from a family of doctors, Manushi, so I wanted to ask you firstly, that desire to want to sit this exam, understanding all the hard work, the pressure that it entails, were you able to see are you able to say that comes from within, or does it come from watching your parents? Was there any pressure at all from your parents to want you to become a doctor?
It's a combination of things. It's never one thing. See, it's also what is it that you see around while you're growing up. And those are the options that you think you have.
Right.
I thought it was doctor, lawyer, engineer, or you finish your college and you get an MBA, or you prepare for the civil services. So these were the few options that I knew I had. Funnily, it never came from my parents because my mother always, like my sister, when she spoke about wanting to become a doctor, my mother prepared her mentally that, don't do it because we are doctors, do it because you really want to become a doctor, because you need to be prepared for what it really takes. Yeah. We're talking about NEET right now, but 4.5 years of MBBS and
that's
onwards.
Just the beginning of your journey.
It's a very demanding curriculum. And she ended up becoming a lawyer.
Right.
But I think I was the child who would not listen to anyone. And for some reason I thought that, and I would also blame peer pressure because all my friends wanted to be doctors. So in school, like when we were 13 or 14, when we used to discuss, what do you want to do? And I grew up always saying that anything but a doctor because there are too many doctors around me. And by the time I reached 13 or 14, all my friends, my best friends, everyone said, oh, we're going to become doctors. It's going to be so cool. We were at the National Science Center and we saw this whole anatomy wing and we thought this is like the coolest thing to do in the world. So it was that aspiration. All of them opted out. Eventually, I was the only one who sat that exam. Finally.
Where's everyone gone?
Yeah, they're all doing different things now. I grew up in an environment where, whether at school or at home, we were given a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
As to you are allowed to do whatever you want to do and you're allowed to make mistakes. And then you're allowed to even change your direction. So I knew that no matter what I did, my parents would support. My father was a bit smart about it. He was smarter. I think he played a bit of reverse psychology where he would always tell me, do whatever you want to do, beta. I will always support you. But you'd make a great doctor one day. So, I think he played it very well. But It's a combination of just the environment you grew up in and the people, what people around you, what they talk about, and even when my mom sat me down and gave me the talk about this being a very, very big commitment and it will take a lot from you, and are you prepared to do that? The confidence that I had because of the school I went to and because of the environment at home, I felt like, okay, big deal.
Right.
I'll do it.
Right.
And that's how I approached it. And I knew that, I mean, by the time you reach it, you've given so much of your precious time and energy to it and you've sacrificed so much that you feel like it is the end of the world if this doesn't happen.
Right.
But I would still say, in the back of your head, you know that you have plan B, plan C, and plan D. Yeah. Because you know that you have that environment at home, that if even a day before the exam, I know that if I would have told my parents and I would have put my foot down and said, I don't want to do this, they would have said, it's okay, we'll figure something else out.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have tried to push me and they would have tried to figure out, is this exam jitters or something else?
Right.
Because my parents have been very clear, like, you do what we did, we can still guide you.
Right.
My brother's in finance. When he decided to take up finance, my parents were very clear that, listen, we aren't in finance.
Yeah.
You, as long as you're ready to figure it out on your own,
Yeah.
we'll support you.
Yeah.
But this is an informed decision you have to make.
Yeah.
So there was a combination of accountability, but we were never pushed to a stage of desperation.
Yeah.
And that's very important.
And that is so wonderful, I think, to have parents who are able to strike that balance. I just want to add to that by saying that I also have parents who have excelled in their respective choices of profession. And if they had put any pressure on all three of us to even try to attempt to achieve anything near that, it would have been difficult. And I'm very grateful that they didn't. There was actually no pressure at all. There was pressure to not waste your time and to have ambition, but really to also live your own life. The idea was your education is to, your school education and then your university education is to empower you to make your own decisions and to make your own mistakes. But I feel like we are perhaps not reflective of a lot of households.
Right.
And because you work with so many parents and with so many children, I do want to say also that it's not just about criticizing parents, because I do think having become a parent myself
Right.
and doing homework with my child who's only 8, it is very hard to know where to draw that line between encouraging, to know where your child can withstand being pushed, like you said, to push your child, if it's just jitters, or to perhaps foist your own dreams and expectations onto them. It's very hard to do. And I myself have been so upset with how I've dealt with my child when I've pushed her to do something that she doesn't want to do. I want her to do it. And it's a work in progress with me. So for you, Dr. Chhabaria, how would you encourage people? How would you advise people, especially parents?
So I think, see, ambition, there's nothing wrong in having ambition. Okay. And it's great to have ambition. Imagine nobody would appear for these exams if, sometimes the parents did not have ambition for the child. Okay. So parents have ambition. Children have ambition. They want to do better. They want to be in a better circumstance. They want to achieve whatever their parents may have not achieved. But sometimes what happens is like, okay, she has had great parents, who did not push her. Sometimes I see a lot of my friends who are doctors who feel that that's the only thing the child should do. And the child does not want to do it. Okay, but they are thinking that, oh my God, who's going to look after my nursing home or this practice or whatever, So they do not allow their children to take anything else. Okay, and the kids are not allowed to think. Okay, now while you have ambition, your child is sitting for the exam, I think the one most important thing is not to have anxiety as parents. Because anxiety is something that just goes from you to the child. We grew up in a house where 3 of us, took up professional courses. The only time we were scolded was because we were studying too much.
Really?
Yeah, we were told, enough, we want to go out, let's go for a movie, let's go for a walk, let's go out and play. So they taught us that you need to balance your life, and they were not anxious. Do your best, leave the rest. At the same time, they were with us throughout. So if we were studying, my parents were sitting with us, whether it was 4 a.m. or 12 at night.
Ji.
So you be with your child, you allow them, you help them to achieve. But the minute you get anxious that, will you get into a good college or not? Oh my God, you were sick yesterday, you couldn't study. Okay, so being calm and confident and giving your child the reassurance that whatever it is, we'll deal with it. I think that is what I would want parents to do, because there's always an option. But if you feel that, oh my God, this is the end of the world, then that anxiety goes on to the child, and the child starts getting anxious and feels that, I don't know what's going to happen.
But are these conversations restricted to households with privilege, this ability?
No. So this is something that, we also talk to, I was talking to you, I have someone who repairs watches, and his daughter went for the NEET exam this year. This watchmaker's daughter did not do well in her second exam. And, he was discussing with me, I said, let's talk about other options. Maybe if she does not do medicine and if she takes up, say, a physiotherapy course, she may be able to, graduate faster, get a job faster, rather than spending the next 10 years and doing something, or sitting for an entire year. Because that is one more option.
Right.
If you do not get into your college the first time, you can also sit for an entire year and give the NEET again.
Right.
Okay. And many a times, even this time, for some kids, it was a second attempt.
Right. Right.
Which is a lot of stress. So
Yes.
sometimes people need help to make decisions.
Yeah.
And we support them in that. Because till now you've made it, oh my God, it's either this or nothing else.
Yeah.
But there are always options.
Yeah.
And we have to help them to make those choices.
Yeah. One thing is the parent pressure and all of this. One thing I wanted to ask you, Manushi, whether you feel, as someone who sat the exam, whether you feel the exam itself, whether there's too much of one's self-worth, one's self-esteem, one's identity that is linked to succeeding in this exam.
Actually, that's another thing which I feel that should kind of lighten around this exam, because, and I'll tell you a little incident that happened at a coaching center, and I still remember this. And I was one of those sincere students who would like come early, go sit in the front, and everyone would like borrow notes from me. And I remember this one teacher walks in, and there was a group of boys who were, they used to come, they used to chill, they used to like have like eat something. They used to always have like some, and they were always the stress busters of the classroom.
Yeah.
And I remember he got really annoyed and he just snapped at them and he said, तुम बच्चों को तुम्हारे पेरेंट्स इतनी मेहनत करके यहाँ भेजते हैं और तुम तो लड़के हो, तुम तो पढ़ लो, लड़की का तो कुछ नहीं, तुम तो कम से कम तुम किस पे डिपेंड करोगे. And I instinctively I was like, so what do you mean लड़की का कुछ नहीं, And I realized that you are attaching so much of a person's identity to this one thing. Not only is it going to take a blow on those boys' self-worth,
right,
but you're also telling the girls it doesn't matter.
Right.
And sometimes, and this is just one example, but it is an environment that's created in a manner where you're told that your worth is going to be decided based on what rank you get, based on what college you get, based on what job you get.
Yeah.
And if you are not able to do X, Y, Z, then you're worthless.
Yeah.
And you've already killed that confidence at a very young age.
Yeah.
And there are such, there are such incidents that you kind of have to face.
Yeah.
And, you do need someone and you do need adults in your life that pull you out of that and tell you that this is not the end of the world.
Yes.
Now, what happens is, as you're reaching the exam, for the past 2 years, especially, these children do nothing. They eat, sleep, breathe exams.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that I would say that I really, really, now I'm feeling very grateful for, is that every time I would go for even the smallest of competitions, like in school, my father would always come from work to pick me up. And no matter what happened at the competition, I would always tell him, like, if I won, then, yeah, we're going to go have ice cream. And if I didn't, he would always be like, koi baat nahi. Okay. And, you know, so it just, that pressure was never there. And that's so important.
Yes.
Because it helps the child actually enjoy the process of doing well. You have to let the child explore.
Yeah.
I liked doing well in my studies.
Yeah.
Not because someone, you know, told me that you have to do well. It's because I knew I was doing this for myself. And the more I enjoyed it, the better I did. And I liked that certain validation that I got from it. And it just kept growing.
Right.
And I feel like that's still a nicer way to approach things, as opposed to thinking that I'm worthless, and if I don't get this, then I'm nobody.
Yeah.
And, you know, biggest example, our former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the fact that he didn't get into what he actually wanted to do in life and then eventually became the president of our country.
Yes.
I would always look back at that story, and whenever I'm at a situation in my life where I feel like this hasn't worked my way, I always tell myself life is a much longer race.
Yeah.
And you do need examples like these. You do need adults, or you do need people who have reinvented themselves and gone and done something else, even though things have not worked in your favor.
Right.
I was watching certain, you know, videos that came on my social media during the re-attempt that happened, where some students got late and they were not allowed inside the examination halls.
I saw that, yeah.
It was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And the fact that you got delayed by 5 minutes, and of course, you understand why the center is following, they're supposed to follow certain rules. So you understand that there's a reason why those rules exist. But that made me realize, you know, looking at the plight of the parents and the students, that made me realize that, you know, maybe it is the end of the world for a lot of people at that moment in life. And should education be inclusive or should it be exclusive? Should the student be judged or should the student be assessed?
Yeah.
You know, there's a difference.
Yeah.
And that's when I felt that, you know, maybe it's time to now move ahead from the rules that were made years ago.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, you realize that this represents a lot more to people.
Yeah.
And we need voices that tell them that it's all right. Life is a much longer journey. You don't know what's ahead. All you have to do is you can't lose confidence in yourself.
Right.
And you can't let... And I mean, you can't let a system sometimes designed to do that to you. You can't let that win.
Yeah.
You have to fight that.
Yeah. So many things came into my mind about, you know, educational systems in other countries, about how things were before NEET was introduced in, you know, 2013 or whenever. It came and then it was quashed. Supreme Court quashed it. Then it came up again. Tamil Nadu wants a different way of doing things.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that. But because we were just talking about self-worth, I thought I'd ask you a question of, you know, the time when you...
I want to add something.
Ji.
She was talking about the stress on boys.
Yes.
You know, I was, there's a study that I was going through, which
Yeah.
was a 6-year study, okay, which looked at, they studied 80 suicides in India, okay. And what did they realize was that 77% were boys. Okay, so imagine 3 out of 4 suicides were by boys. Of course, this was IITs, this was NEET exam, this was a lot of competitive exams.
Ji.
You know, so we'll also have to see how many boys and how many girls appeared.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, sometimes what happens is girls may even talk about their pressures either to their friends or to their parents. But boys in our society, you know, many of the times they just keep quiet.
Yeah.
And they just try to pretend that, oh, everything is all right.
Yeah.
Or they may go into some kind of, you know, indulgence.
Yeah.
And then suddenly one fine day, they just crash.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so even the teachers have to be extremely responsible to make statements like what she was talking about.
Absolutely. And so many things again.
Yeah.
The one thing that I wanted to ask you, Manushi, before I come to you, Dr. Chhabaria, was that there have been different successes in your life. I remember getting into Oxford was a big deal for me. It was the third generation in my family. There was no expectation, but again, my father was like, it would be kind of cool if you went to Oxford. And I was like, okay, I'll try. But it's also something that I wanted to do for myself. And I understood that. And I think that if I didn't get in or if I went somewhere else, it was that kind of environment at home, which would have been okay. I would have dealt with that disappointment. For you, there was getting your rank even in your re-exam. And then there was winning Miss World. From other people meeting you, congratulating you, I just want to understand with the two different kinds of successes, how you felt people judge those successes. Is there a difference? It's a weird question, but I was wondering.
I think they expect
is there more value attached to?
They didn't think about Miss World.
I mean, I'm just trying to understand, like, there's different now ways of succeeding in life, but how do people react to these different things in your life?
You know, at that point when I was 20 and I'd won Miss World and I just moved to Mumbai, I was here for about 3 months till one night, I felt sick. I didn't realize I was sick because I was so used to my mom figuring it out much before I did.
I know that feeling.
And then I felt so low and I started crying and I'm like, am I sad? Why am I sad? And then I realized, I'm like, Manushi, you have fever. That's what's going on. And I remember I was up till 6:30 because I was alone in an apartment. And for the first time in my life, I felt that, you are the result of a lot of people around you who've supported you.
Yeah.
And gave a call to my parents the next morning. And I told my mom that, okay, I know you guys have a life in Mumbai, but life in Delhi, would you consider moving to Mumbai? And my mom said, okay, we'll think about it. And I realized her think about it would take a few months. So
you called your dad.
3 days later, I called my dad. And
you waited 3 days.
3 days, yeah. I gave her 3 days. I called my dad and I said, Dad, I'm alone and there are a lot of contracts and, decisions and a lot of things that have to be made. And this is not a world that I understand. It would mean a lot to me if you could guide me through this the way you've guided me through life before. And he said, okay, beta. And then the next day, I get a message, your mom's landing at XYZ. She's going to come and look at apartments. Right now, just lock something for a year. We'll figure out the next later. And I think that was, so a lot of people, what I'm trying to say is that when I was at that age and at that stage, when I just won Miss World, a lot of people thought that, she does something and it works out. Whereas they don't see a lot of support system that you have, that you kind of have to acknowledge and have to really be grateful for. At the same time, till I didn't become Miss World, no one really knew what I did in life before.
Yeah.
There have been 1,000 failures that I have seen till that moment.
Yeah.
And it's but natural. So sometimes you only get visibility around a certain event, and then of course a lot of people spoke about clearing medicine. I think I at a very early age got a certain exposure, and I do feel that I missed out on college life. Like I see a lot of my friends, a lot of experiences they had in college. I didn't get those experiences. Yeah. But I got a different kind of experience. I started working, I got exposure, I traveled the world. I've met from the most underprivileged to the most powerful people of a certain country in the same day. That opens your eyes and it makes you realize that the parameters of success are so different.
Yeah.
It changes you very early in life. Today, the conversations I would have with my parents about what I want to do in my life are very different as to what I had 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And because the way, say, the education system and a lot of these competitions are designed, no matter how supportive people around you are, you kind of do start attaching your worth to, these superficial achievements, if I may call them. And I think after that, for me, the journey has been to unlearn that pattern and to understand that for me, success is, track my parameters. Am I doing better?
What's your recovery at today?
I do not want to say that on camera. Am I actually doing things that really make me feel fulfilled in life?
Yeah.
And I have fought my way to earn that privilege, to be able to do that and to live a life where I feel like, okay, now this is what I want to do, and I'm not fighting for the basics and I'm not fighting for survival anymore.
Yeah.
So your parameters for success change based on that.
Yes.
So, a lot of times, like a lot of people say, oh, you didn't become a doctor and why didn't you end up finishing? Yeah, I mean, I still have time to finish
I know.
my studies. But I feel that, life just had different plans.
Yeah.
And if I genuinely didn't enjoy what I was doing, trust me, I would have gone back to college.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I know that your studies are a lot more forgiving than a lot of other things, because you can always go back and you can always go back to that life. But at the same time, I feel that outside of what people might say about what they think about my life and what they think about, what defines me, I think I've moved way ahead of that.
Yeah.
So like when you asked me this question, now it just feels like such a distant memory.
Yeah.
Because I think I've moved ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's visible also that you've moved ahead with all the things. This was in 2017 and now we're in 2026. And there's so much that you have achieved, and and we were speaking about that off camera as well. For example, people that come to you in your clinic, are they speaking about a sense of distrust in the education system? Are these conversations that are coming up now?
Yes, of course. And I mean, people don't have to talk to us about it. It's all over today.
Yeah.
The fact that such a big thing, such a big movement happened.
Yes.
It's also because that somewhere the younger generation has lost trust.
Yes.
And they're open about it.
Yes.
And they're so open that they will tell you on your face also.
Yes.
That I'm sorry, these talks will not do.
Yes.
We need to see some action.
Do you feel also, because you went through this, so do you connect with that sense of like mistrust in the wider system now?
See, that's your first experience as to, oh, wait, the world's not a fair place.
Yeah.
And that's not a very nice place to have that experience, because you've been told you work hard and you give it your best and you will see fair results. And you realize that, I think it's too early to come to that realization. And definitely not through your education system. I think, like I said, education stands for something more than just learning in our country. And there is a certain responsibility that comes with it. When I was watching the protests that were going on, it was not just about this one exam, that where the paper got leaked. It was about multiple things and a lot of anxiety that was in the young generation as to, we know that things can be done better, but we want to be heard.
Yeah.
We want to have that discussion, and we want to be we want to actively participate on what actually happens in our future. So it was a combination of everything. And I'd say that you do expect fairness. You do expect, you do have a lot of faith in the system. You have a lot of faith in your country, in all the institutions that belong to the country. So as someone who's aspiring to eventually become a bigger part of what constitutes our country, you have that expectation of the least of your expectation is a certain amount of fairness.
Yes.
And the whole idea behind what happened with NEET and for it to become one centralized exam was to bring fairness.
Right.
That we won't have multiple exams, we'll have one, and that's going to determine so that everyone has to face the exact same level of, the same level of difficulty.
Right.
And everyone gives the same exam, because ultimately your MBBS curriculum is going to be the same.
Right.
And I think that was the spirit behind it. So for a paper to get leaked, it's kind of,
Right.
it's a disservice to the spirit behind the fact that you've centralized an exam.
Yeah, I think as you said, the idea of, in the little research that I did, when your parents perhaps sat for these, it was a little different.
Yeah.
The idea of it all coming together was to make it merit-based. And fair, because we have a country where not everybody has the same educational opportunities. A lot of it is resource based. And when we're saying that, okay, everything comes down to one pressurized exam, as opposed to it being spread out over, for example, an interview that you have, an essay that you write, frequent assessments. If it were perhaps like that, would that make it less fair? Because not everybody will have the ability over the experiences that they have, depending on where they go to school and what language they're studying, etc., to be able to present themselves in the same way. Which makes me think that's why we have an exam like this. Before we come to the alternatives,
I will
please.
add a little bit to that. There's something like, and this wasn't when I gave my JEE, but today you can give your JEE twice. So there's one that happens in Jan, and then there's another that happens 6 months later. So if you're not happy, it happens in the same year. So in case you're not happy with your performance, you have 6 months to improve it. And I feel that does take a lot of pressure away, and they have a percentile system.
Right.
Where based on how difficult the particular set of questions that you had, how difficult were they versus how many students appeared. So they have multiple parameters that decide. I think that does take a lot of pressure away also, because you know that you don't have to wait for one more year. You know that in the next 6 months you can give another attempt.
Yes.
So I think that's something interesting that JEE has done that I've read about. And it's important to keep one exam also, because it's a lot of pressure on the student to have to travel and give multiple exams. You're going to every state, you have to give, like, there are particular pre-medical tests. That adds a lot of, again, burden on the child. The third thing I would say is that, and this is, it's a long shot, but school's not only about, getting good grades. You're interacting with peers. There's so much more life that you live in your school. And to become a doctor, the reason why the entrance is so difficult is because it takes a lot to even become a doctor. So they're preparing you for what's to come. But at the same time, is a doctor one who only knows who's only good at studies, or do they also have to be good at collaborating with the entire team, communicating things to their patients, making decisions under stress? There are a lot of other skills that are required.
Yes.
Are we focusing on those skills as well, or are we just making our students people who just happen to know a lot of facts?
Yeah.
So I think that shift is also important.
Yeah.
And somewhere I feel maybe, hopefully schools could help bring that.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more interaction that happens. So, I mean, there are many ways of doing it.
Yes.
But somewhere I feel that we've made it so exclusive that we've forgotten the whole reason as to why these exams are being held.
Right.
It's not just about filtering out people or having a cutoff or telling people, oh, you made it and you didn't.
Right.
It's more about telling them that this is level 1.
Yeah.
And if you can take this, then you'll be able to take what's to come next.
Yes.
So there I feel like there's a little bit of a gap,
which
kind of needs to be, managed. Not just like there's a lot of objectivity that goes into this, but you kind of have to also understand that ultimately what is the requirement of the job?
Yeah.
And do we have candidates? Are we selecting candidates based on what they know or based on what they don't know?
Right. Right. I think that's very important also because, that cutoff being so important, somebody being above the cutoff and somebody being below the cutoff, and that's all that matters, cannot be the only quality that you're looking for in a future doctor. Because we talked about it being fair, I know one objection that certain state governments like Tamil Nadu keeps saying is that, with the way that it is now, and everyone going to Kota and Rajasthan, the Hindi belt gets a lot of help and preference when it comes to sitting an exam like this, and they're pushing for something that is different, more state-based, etc. I don't know if this is something that you have an opinion on.
I'll tell you what. I think India is a huge country.
I think you're right.
Okay, and the solutions will come.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think a lot of minds, a lot of thinking needs to go into the ideal solution. So when you feel that, the thing is, today if we have to give the solutions, I would ask the younger generation to come up with solutions. And you will be surprised at the solutions that they'll come up with.
Tell me.
Because today if we have, for example, if we have 20 papers and nobody knows which paper is going to go in. Okay, and it is just maybe half an hour or whatever, 20 minutes before the 20 papers that somebody, maybe the education minister only has to press a button. And that is the paper that goes out. Definitely, the chances of leakage are going to be less. So, for example, if you've got all the 20 papers and you're going to do all the 20 papers, then you're doing the entire portion, right? So there are solutions, and with technology, we have to use that technology.
I think that now they're coming up with some
They
solutions.
will come up with solutions. As you see today, because of AI, sometimes if I get a video, I do not even know whether it is true or fake, right? So if you're looking at it, if the criminals are going to be one step ahead, they may figure a way, to leak that as well.
Right.
So of course, I think a lot of thought will have to be given into how we can go ahead. But of course, digitalization is something that is working for a lot of countries and a lot of competitive exams. So I think to begin with, maybe we need to think of good ways of doing that,
Do you have thoughts on that?
Well, someone wants to find a loophole in the system, they will.
Yeah.
The idea is that how do we kind of filter out those people and do not let them, whether you're having a physical examination or you're having it digitally, the idea is the challenge is much bigger. There's a lot that has to be figured out right now. And I think everyone's anticipating some good change. And everyone's actually waiting for the authorities to, overcome this challenge and as to what their solution is going to be. I'd say that while you have to kind of protect the examination in a way where these leaks don't happen, it's also important to change the stages in which the exam happens. Because personally, as a student, I feel that if I knew that 6 months later I can improve my score, or I had that option, it kind of helps, because on the day of the exam, maybe I'm sick.
Yes.
Sometimes you're so stressed that your mind goes blank.
You're not able to function on that day to the best of your ability.
Maybe on your way to the center, you got delayed something. So you also have to kind of cater to all of that.
factors.
Yes.
So hopefully not make that the end of everything.
There are I want to say this is not just about NEET, it's not just about India. There are other educational systems, other cultures that have different ways of assessing. China, South Korea, similar to NEET in terms of this one-day exam. And similarly, they have then a coaching culture which can be exploitative. They have a lot of, mental issues among students. So it's a very similar play out. I'm saying it's not unique to India.
Right.
We do have educational systems that have evolved to places like Germany, America, UK, which have different ways of assessing. So there are moments of stress through the year. And I don't know if moments of stress through the year makes it less stressful than having one day of stress. Maybe that differs from personality to personality and things that we thrive on. Somebody does well with one day. True. I mean, when I was at university, we had one little exam at the end of the first year, nothing in the second year, and then everything hinged on the exams that you sat at the end of the third year. It doesn't work for everyone. Is there a system that you feel that we can benefit from perhaps emulating?
See, that's what I was thinking when she was talking about these 2 exams. I was thinking the kids are going to say, "Oh my God, you're fed up of giving 1. Now you're going to make it 2."
Exactly, yeah.
So that
So
could be a
JEE does
reaction.
this.
Yeah, I know. I
the first one
understand.
happens in January. So that's much before you even give your boards. It's not usually, so you get a chance. You can choose not to appear again.
Like the SAT, for example.
SATs,
The SATs.
Yes, yeah.
If you don't do well in one, you can apply, or you can do another one.
Right.
And you can do 3 attempts.
Right.
So something like that has worked
Right.
for the SATs, you
Yes.
know. So maybe we'll have to look at solutions. I think the government is already looking at solutions and they've appointed people for that, you know.
So it'll be very, sorry, I'm interrupting you,
no,
but it'll be
that's
very
okay.
difficult to have, completely replicate what another country is doing, because our country has a very different set of
Very
challenges.
different, Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't just copy paste from another system, but the idea is to understand what purpose does this fulfill,
Right.
and are our ways archaic?
Yeah.
Do we need to evolve? And do we need to understand what is it that the generation today really needs?
Yes.
And I think that's where the solution will be found.
Yeah. So I know that there's more seats. Apparently, since 2014, seats have doubled, and having limited seats was an issue, which added to the pressure of sitting these exams. But a lot of these seats are in private colleges, not in government colleges. So I wanted to ask the both of you whether this actually means that there's less pressure, or has nothing really changed? Because most people are vying for the government seats.
So I would say that the government needs to make more hospitals and more colleges, and they should be enabled, that anyone should be able to go there.
Yeah.
Why is it that we have only a certain class of people who go to a government hospital? Now, why is a government seat so important? Because in a day, like I studied in a government college, I would see 150 patients. Only one person seeing 150 patients. Now, there's good and there's bad in this.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that our government doctors get so much experience. So I would urge the government to have more hospitals and to look after them well. And, and that's why I have more government seats.
Yeah.
So that a lot of people get help. The students get the colleges, people get good hospitals, and we're all getting good care.
I think the conversation around, I remember when we used to discuss colleges, all our teachers, my peers, we would all discuss about something very similar to what you said. You learn a lot more at a government college because your everyday footfall, even in a normal OPD, and you learn on the job. A large part of it is studying, but your clinical postings, when you interact with patients, is when you actually learn what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to talk.
Yeah.
And my God, I've seen brilliant doctors. They would look at your face and they'd know exactly what it is.
Really?
And then you realize once you start interacting with people, like I've seen my father, he would look at someone and there have been instances where he said, quickly go get your heart checked right now. And I'm sure you also kind of, you're able to assess after a point of time, and that practice is what makes you a better doctor.
That comes with the experience.
Right.
And the footfall in a government hospital gives you real-time experience as to what exactly is common in that particular area where you're studying.
Yeah.
At the same time, the fee structure is a lot better at a government college, which makes it much easier for families to send their kids to a government college.
Sure.
But at the moment, what we need to do is, the first thing is, I think we need to have points where we even introduce, first of all, mental health, right? And even teach maybe teachers and parents what is mental health and what is happening, and even students for that matter.
Where are we at with counseling in places like the coaching institutes?
Tip of the iceberg. Because what happens is, even though, a lot of us have said that we want to give free service to the nation, there are a lot of, there aren't too many psychiatrists, but mental health professionals have gathered and said, we do not want suicides, we do not want children suffering, we do not want kids going into addictions, right? We want to help them, So education, of course, in terms of mental health education to the teachers, to the parents, to children, and even just doing questionnaires. There's simple questionnaires if we give a, group of 50 people, and if we find some answers coming up, we know that these are the kids that you need to look after specially, or these are the kids who are probably breaking down under the system.
Yes.
So till we figure out better solutions, I think this is something that, maybe we can actually try and do.
So this is, given the number of suicides that happen, given that this is in the national news, is this not something that people are focusing on?
Not yet.
Really?
Not yet. Mental health still does not get the importance, that it should. And I think that is very important, because the minute people start understanding, what is happening to the child, I'm sure if the kids who lost their lives, if the parents knew something about mental health, probably they would have not gotten the help. One of my biggest guilt factors was, I just did it with the kids who were close to me. Why did I not do something more at that time? Why did I not come out and maybe go on social media and tell all the parents that, guys, this has happened, now all of you do this. Maybe a life or two could have been saved.
But I know that the pressure doesn't end with the exam. We talked about this a little bit earlier also. It is the gateway. And there's a lot of the journey that continues after that. I wanted to touch on that. Firstly, I wanted to ask you whether there was a moment where you decided that this is not something that you want to pursue for the moment. Or what's the plan?
It was gradual. It's not like one day I woke up and I said, oh, this is not what I want to do. I loved studying what I was studying. And while I was in college, I think all of us were very exhausted by the time we made it to college.
Yeah.
So when we started, our seniors used to joke that you'll only be happy the first 2 days of college and the last 2 days. That's a very, very old joke.
But that's what I was wondering. Was it burnout? Was it that you had given so much to this? And
I mean, you're already tired and now you're like, you think that that's the finish line and you don't realize that there's a larger mountain waiting after. But as I said, it can be made a much nicer, more pleasant experience with, of course, having the right people you could talk to, getting the right support from your professors, your seniors, because it's so competitive. Now, while the result was to be declared, I had about 2 months in between and I said, I can't sit at home anymore. So I enrolled in DU. I went to a college there. I would go to Miranda House and I was doing math honors over there. And that was my plan B.
Math honors as a plan B would be my plan Z.
Yeah, I was like a 17-year-old. I had my whole plan A, plan B, plan C. And I remember I never attended a single class because I knew that, I would get into a medical college. By that time, I kind of had calculated my score. But during that time, there was so much of a difference in the environment that I saw at DU versus what I saw at college. Because the friends I made at Delhi University in 2 months are still my very close friends.
Yeah.
And fewer from college, from med school. I remember when I went to med school, I spoke about this to my parents and they said that, you're competing with each other, even in college. So you will find some peers that you can collaborate with, but because you're made to feel that now you're all going to, after 4.5 years and then 1 year of internship, you're all going to sit for your PG exams.
Yes.
And only half of you are going to make it. From day one, you're back into that same cycle of, so somewhere I feel that healthy competition is important.
Yeah.
And to understand that you need to enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
Even if it's difficult, if you find joy in doing that, it becomes so much easier.
Yeah.
You can't make medicine any easier. You have to study all of that. You have to go through those classes, those practicals, those postings. You have to.
Yes.
There's no alternative.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And you have to spend those many years. We calculated, and me and my classmates were like, oh, it's going to take us at least 11.5 to 13 years to actually get to working.
Yeah.
So you have to go through that. But I feel that it can be made a much nicer, more inclusive, more fun process.
How?
Having people to talk to. I remember the first year I was in college, most professors would just tell us as to how difficult life is now going to be.
Heads.
And I'm like, okay, thanks for the heads up. But, we've just come from one very demanding experience. And then, a lot of times you do end up finding seniors. Sometimes you don't. Certain seniors are there. They're there to help you and they're there to tell you, it's not a big deal. Certain seniors are dealing with something of their own, so they don't have time to guide you. But I feel like maybe a few steps ahead where professors could be a little more
kinder
and more involved.
Yeah.
And, and I still remember those 2-3 professors who were that.
Right.
Or, a lab assistant who was more compassionate and understanding. I remember, we had a lovely lab assistant in biochemistry, and we were one of our, I think it was a mid-semester exam, midterm exams, and we call it professional, we call it prof in medicine. And I remember we were really sleep deprived, and he was so kind and so sweet. And he gave us a talk, and he said, "Listen, just breathe, all of you." He made us do these meditation exercises before we went in, and just that little effort,
Yeah.
kind of helps you and makes you realize that, okay, I'm centered, and all I'm supposed to do is give it as much as it requires,
Yeah.
and then I can shut down and I can go back, and then I can move on with life.
Yeah.
You need those characters. And then
Yes.
there are also professors who would be like, if you don't do it, life is over.
Yeah.
And I feel that that's not the right approach.
Right.
Because sometimes maybe you feel that that's the right approach because you think that, that will push the child to do better.
Yeah.
But it's already a very competitive and a demanding world. When my parents were in med school, they might have not had as much access as I did, but it was a lot less competitive. And I'm sure today it's even more competitive.
Yeah.
Like when I gave my NEET, they said that the total score is 720. So we were told if you score above 500, you'll secure a very good government college. Today it's almost 600,
Right.
which is 100 marks more than
Yes.
what we
Right.
were told as a benchmark. So it is getting more competitive.
Right.
And there are more number of students appearing every year.
Yes.
So definitely that approach has to change. People today have more access. It is different. So, the system has to evolve.
Absolutely.
Maybe, my parents love to joke about this, that we could never say no to our parents, but you guys you are ready to tell us, no, you're wrong, mom, no, you're dad, mom, you're wrong, no, you're
Dad,
wrong,
yeah.
dad, no, you're wrong, mom. And I think that's a big change that has happened.
Yeah.
Where we have a lot more access, we have the internet, we know what's going on in another country.
Yeah.
We would never even visit that particular city, but
Yes.
we know what the system is.
Yes.
Over there. So there's a lot more confidence, a lot more exposure.
Yes.
A lot more means to be able to learn,
Yes.
even remotely. And these are things that have been provided to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So the competition is getting more intense. And I think you need to kind of evolve now.
Yeah.
Like maybe a danda worked on our parents' generation, it won't work on us. Maybe we need to be guided with more kindness.
Yeah.
So that change definitely has to happen even after the exam.
Yeah. No, you're right, because we know, like, we had 22,000 lakh students sitting. There's 63,000 government seats today that are available. And then there's quotas and reservations also to
Yeah.
take into account.
Yeah.
So it is difficult, certainly. Just the wanting to be a doctor. Like, my pediatrician came home the other day to give us immunity shots. And he said, my children see my life, see my struggles, see how much money I'm making, and they don't want to be doctors today. There are other avenues that are open. People are saying no dad, no mom to their parents, and are choosing other careers. Today also, there is a market that affords other occupations to you.
Right.
So do you feel that now it's changing? Perhaps not so many people are going to want to become doctors?
Yes. In fact, both my kids, I did not encourage them. I said, I was the first doctor from both the sides of the family, my family and my husband's family. I'm the only doctor, the first one. But when my kids were growing up, I asked them, do you want to do this? And
Right.
of course, my daughter loves animals, how passionate she
Yes.
is. And I asked her, why don't you become a vet?
Yeah.
And she says, I don't want to go through so many, challenges. Because I see my friends who are studying to become doctors, they have no life.
Yeah, exactly.
They have no life left.
Right.
So, and I think, of course, it's important for everyone to know what they want or to decide what they want to do. And sometimes by 17, children are too small. They don't know. So, of
Yeah.
course, what the parent says and feels
Is
is
an important influence.
Yeah. But even this year, before a lot of these kids, who I was counseling, the parents came and asked me, do you think, because it's okay, we don't want them to get so stressed and we don't want them to break down under stress.
Right.
So I think a lot of people are looking at other options. People are also thinking of doing medicine in other countries,
Yes.
which was not something which was common earlier,
Yes.
So I think there are a lot of options that are there. And of course, it's not that there aren't challenges in other countries,
Yeah.
No,
there aren't. But
But-
do you think that this generation is able to walk away now from those established, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a
Yes.
doctor kind of careers? And also, is the definition of success today different
Yeah.
for the current generation, do you think?
I think there are two very different sets of people that we're talking about here. there is one set that has evolved into being able to make those choices
Decisions, yeah.
and say that, hey, I don't want to be a doctor because I don't want to give so many years of my life and then once I'm practicing, have that life.
Yeah.
I want to explore what's more.
Yeah.
And to them, maybe self-development is a certain form of success.
Yeah.
But in our country, for a majority of people, medicine
still-
is a platform out of poverty to better their lives. So you have to understand that those students don't have as much of a choice.
Yeah.
And
Or the
that's where,
confidence.
exactly, and that's where these systems such as NEET become so important.
Right.
Because they're catering to a larger number of those people.
Right. I think closing questions as a psychiatrist, my question to you, Dr. Chhabaria, would be what, if you could highlight again, because people like to have shorter answers and one thing to focus on, one thing that you would like to see implemented almost immediately, either in the coaching system or at home, that would help students?
I think I would want the coaching systems to assess the stress levels of the children, and I would want even schools and parents to be able to get their children to talk and to communicate better and to understand what they want to do rather than what the parent wants them to do, and to have such open-ended conversations.
Yes.
So that we have an emotionally healthier community.
Yeah. I think that's important, to be able to talk to your child and
So able to listen.
That's what I was about to
Listening
say. As
is
I said
very
talk,
important,
I said the ability to not finish my child's sentence is one of the hardest things I have to do as a parent.
Yes,
because I think I know where she's going to go with it. But if I actually just stay silent, she might say something that will surprise me. But I have to give her an opportunity to talk.
And also not to realize your own ambitions through your child.
Yeah. Much easier said than done, I want to say. But that is the hope.
Yes.
And Manushi, if you could address people, perhaps an aspiring student, someone who will be sitting this exam, someone who might have to even resit an exam, or have that looming over them that this exam is something that I have to sit, I might possibly have to resit it. Is there something that you could say to them that would be helpful?
Well, I mean, a lot of students actually every year reach out to me, and a lot of them, they'll always ask for what are the tips that we could use, or what is your experience through those set of examinations. And I'd say give it as much as you're okay giving.
Yeah.
Do it if you truly want to do it. And while I understand that for a large section they don't have another option, but I do hope that tomorrow we might become a country where not having another option doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And that would be my North Star. To all the students who are preparing, this is, of course, one of the most important exams that you'll give in your life, but remember to balance it out. Remember to get your sleep, to take care of yourself, because you don't want to be exhausted by the time you reach college. You want to conserve your energy so that you're prepared for what you have to learn after you've qualified the exam. You shouldn't be...
Like you said, this is the finishing line. It's not the finishing line.
No, it's not. And college can be a lot more fun. Yeah. Just make sure that you find the right mentors, you find the right peers who make you feel good about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And do not get affected by anyone who doesn't.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's really important, I think, to have conversations like this, because I do think people see you, and for those who didn't know you'd been through something similar to this, now they do, and it does give hope. And to find that strength is again easier said than done, but having examples, positive examples of people who say the right things, who make the right noises in your ears, really is sometimes all that you need. So thank you to both of you.
Can I say one more thing?
No, you're not. You can't at all. Of course, you can say one more thing.
It's also important, the minute you enter college, to unlearn what you've learned, those patterns, and it's an effort you will have to make to let go of those patterns and then prepare yourself to enjoy through college. Something my father taught me, and he said, when you're going to college, think of it as learning to adjust in a new family. think of it as a new world completely. And one very nice thing that our college had was that we never call our professors ma'am or sir. We call them Dr. Saab. Because eventually they'll be your seniors.
Yeah.
They're not just your teachers, but they'll be your guides and your mentors, and eventually your colleagues.
Yeah.
So you are given a sense of responsibility since day one. And I'd say that so you can adjust in this new environment and you can enjoy what this new world has to offer. Just make sure that you forget all the pressure that was there before the exam. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do, but that's an effort that every student will have to make if they want to enjoy their journey through MBBS.
Yeah. I think if we can just learn to leave baggage behind sometimes and shed and move ahead, and every day is a new day. So thank you again for all your time.
Thank you.
I think really for me, if there's been one takeaway from today's conversation, it is that no exam, no rank, no single day can ever define your worth. I think like Dr. Chhabaria said, ambition is important, of course, but so is your well-being, your resilience, and the life that you build beyond any exam result. And if you are a parent watching this with a child who is prepping for NEET, for G, for any exam like that right now, I think the most useful thing that you can do this week is perhaps not do another mock test. Try and have an honest conversation where you actually ask them how they're feeling, not just how many hours have you studied today. And your pride in them, maybe tell them, was never supposed to be conditional on a rank. And please say this out loud to them before another mock test, not just after the results of the exam. Manushi, I want to thank you for sharing a very personal chapter in your life with a lot of us and for lending your voice to students who I think are navigating this moment. And Dr. Chhabaria, thank you again for being a part of this podcast and for sharing your expertise and for continuing to help so many students with just coping with all the difficulties of growing up. And for all of you watching, I think let's just remind ourselves of the emotional impact of the competitive exam culture in India that has on our children, and remind ourselves again that behind every score is a young person who really deserves our empathy and our support. If this episode resonated at all with you, then do share it with a parent, with a student, a teacher, or with anyone who needs to hear that one exam does not define a life. And please do not forget to like, to share, and to subscribe to All About Her. Until next time, stay informed, stay healthy, and we will see you in the next episode.